Yo, what is up guys, Delboy here, aka Blue Collar Sports TV. Hopefully you guys are doing well. If you're new here, smash that like, hit subscribe, all of that good stuff. So this video is a quick preview and prediction for Roman Gonzalez versus Juan Francisco Estrada. This fight goes down on the 13th of February and it is a unification fight in the super flyweight division. Of course, Juan Francisco Estrada holds the WBC belt at super flyweight and Roman Gonzalez holds the WBA belt at super flyweight. So a unification fight with pound for pound level implications as far as I'm concerned. You know, these two guys are a credit to the sport of boxing. And it's great that we have this long-awaited rematch. Of course, these two guys nearly fought a decade ago at this point, back in 2012, and in that fight, Roman Gonzalez won a close decision. Very good fight first time around, and I expect it to be the same in the rematch. But yeah, great fight, looking forward to it. And in my opinion, it's certainly a hard fight to call. But anyway, let's briefly run through the tail of the tape, and then we'll break down, in my opinion, how this fight's going to play out, what each guy should do, and then make my pick who wins this fight. But yeah, let's run through the tail of the tape. We shall start with Roman Gonzalez. He's got an insane record of 50 wins, 2 defeats, 0 draws. 41 of his 50 wins coming by way of knockout. Juan Francisco Estrada has a record of 41 wins, 3 defeats, 0 draws. 28 of those 41 wins coming by way of knockout. And by the way, Juan Francisco Estrada has avenged 2 of his 3 defeats. And obviously, if he were to beat Roman Gonzalez, he would have avenged all losses in his career, which is a great look. Roman Gonzalez is listed as 5'3" with a 64-inch reach, whereas Juan Francisco Estrada is listed as 5'4" with a 66-inch reach. So Estrada is the bigger guy here. He's got a 1-inch height advantage and a 3-inch reach advantage. Estrada naturally is a pretty good sized super flyweight, whereas Roman Gonzalez isn't the biggest super flyweight you'll ever see. You know, he actually sometimes is kind of fleshy in the ring, not one of those guys who's ripped or anything like that. So Estrada going into this fight certainly has the size advantage, height and reach and weight, and that could be a factor on fight night. Roman Gonzalez is 33 years old, whereas Juan Francisco Estrada is 30 years old. Gonzalez has more experience, but let's be honest, both of these guys have had numerous high-level fights. So in my opinion, that's not really going to play a factor. These two guys have been in with world-level operators. So for me, the experience factor here isn't really relevant. But, you know, the age difference here, Roman Gonzalez been through more wars, he's been knocked out. Maybe Estrada is a little fresher out of the two. But having said that, Estrada himself, while he's not had quite the same amount of wars as Gonzalez, he certainly had his own injury problems in the past. So, you know, experience-wise, both guys, I don't think it's going to play a factor. But maybe Estrada's a bit fresher. But, you know, it's kind of hard to tell due to the injuries he sustained in the past few years. Roman Gonzalez, orthodox fighter, as is Juan Francisco Estrada. So that is the tail of the tape out of the way. Now let's talk about the fight itself. Who wins, who does what, etc, etc. Roman Gonzalez, as we know, is a master inside fighter. Brilliant at creating angles up close to work. High work rate. Great punch variety. He's a bit of a buzzsaw on the inside. He's a great combination puncher, great body puncher, and he's got a great technique of when he throws combinations, he will kind of vary the power on each shot. So maybe he throws 2 light shots and then the third is a very heavy shot. Just a great inside fighter, Roman Gonzalez, and a great pressure fighter. By the way, he can box a bit as well, Roman Gonzalez. It's not like this guy can't box, he can, but I don't think that is the style for him in this fight due to Estrada being an inch taller and having a 3-inch reach advantage. I think Gonzalez would struggle to play this one long and try and outpoint Estrada from the outside. I believe he needs to try and smother Estrada in this fight. Estrada is a very good counterpuncher. He can fight on the inside, but I believe he's most dangerous at mid-range. Gonzalez really needs to avoid exchanging with Estrada at mid-range. To me, he needs to collapse the pocket, get on the inside and do his thing up close, you know, work the body, work the head, and obviously utilise that great punch output that he does have. I think his work rate is higher than Juan Francisco Estrada. Not that Estrada is low, but, Gonzalez is a great worker in there. So for me, Gonzalez really needs to try and take this as close as possible, and he needs to try and smother Estrada in this fight. Try and take that power away from him, because Estrada generates great power, both on the outside and at mid-range. Up close, don't get me wrong, he's still a very good inside fighter. I just believe Roman Gonzalez is more skilled up close. Obviously, though, at 33 years old, a guy who's had a lot of wear and tear, you can't carry that out for 12 rounds, or at least it's going to be very hard. So, Gonzalez does need to be wary not to blow his load in there. He needs to take his breaks. For example, if he started a round well in the first 2 minutes where he's working up close, etc., then, for the rest of the round, try and take a break, try and keep it on the outside, but not really engage, just backpedal and win the rounds, basically, I think Gonzalez needs to really manage his stamina and manage what his body can go through in this fight, because, like I say, he's been through a lot of wars, and while I think Gonzalez is better up close, fighting for 12 rounds that way against Estrada is still going to be very risky. So while he needs to fight like that, he needs to pick his moments in doing so and really be cerebral with it. I do believe Roman Gonzalez is, he's intelligent enough to carry that out. I think he knows that at this stage. He knows his body, he knows what works, he knows what doesn't work. And Gonzalez to me needs to approach this fight on the inside. He needs to get his work done, get out, and then try and neutralise what Estrada has by not really engaging, basically. Like I say, take breaks in rounds and utilise that experience. I guess what I'm saying is he needs to be a more conservative version of himself, do what he does best. But obviously he needs to bear in mind that this is a 12-round fight against a hungry, strong, younger guy in Estrada. And as for Estrada, I think he would be wise actually to, try and box with Gonzalez on the outside behind that jab and that straight right hand, and obviously also at mid-range, because that's where Estrada is best. If he could get Gonzalez exchanging at mid-range, I think he's got a great chance in this fight. And he needs to try and draw Roman Gonzalez into that sort of fight, Maybe he needs to catch him early on to engage with Gonzalez, make him want to retaliate, basically. Roman Gonzalez has that sort of fire within him, and, if you catch him, he's going to want to catch you back. So I think Estrada, actually, he can have success boxing on the outside in this fight behind the jab. I wouldn't mind seeing that approach. Maybe Estrada could actually really switch it up, box behind the jab, and try and make Gonzalez close the distance. And as Gonzalez tries to close the distance, then that counter-punchability comes into play. For me, Juan Francisco Estrada is very reminiscent of Juan Manuel Marquez in his style. He can fight, he can brawl, he can box, and he's a great counter-puncher. I mentioned that maybe Estrada needs to catch Gonzalez early on to try and engage Gonzalez into that sort of mid-range war, but also maybe he can do that by boxing on the back foot, making Gonzalez chase the fight, maybe win a couple of the early rounds, and then kind of make Gonzalez a bit frustrated to where he's trying to close the distance a little more in a more desperate fashion, and then that counter-punchability comes into play. Ultimately, I think that's what, Estrada's best weapons lie in: his counter-punchability, his timing, his accuracy, and his power in doing so. Estrada can certainly punch at super flyweight, and, like I say, Gonzalez isn't the biggest super flyweight in the world. He got knocked out by Saur Rungvisai. He was physically outgunned in that fight, and I certainly believe Estrada at this weight, where they are in these days, I believe Estrada can definitely hurt Gonzalez and maybe knock him out by drawing him into a big shot. But yeah, I think Estrada, that's his MO here, is trying to utilise the counter-punchability. And obviously I mentioned that Gonzalez is a world-class inside fighter. He is. Maybe Estrada also, another game plan for him actually could be to try and force Roman Gonzalez back. Not kind of sit in the pocket with no foot movement and basically trade it out with Gonzalez, but force him on the back foot while punching, while coming forwards, and chase Gonzalez down that way with your superior size, reach, weight, etc. I think there's more ways Estrada can go about winning this fight than Roman Gonzalez, to be honest with you. I don't believe Roman Gonzalez at this stage can outbox Juan Francisco Estrada from range. I don't believe he can one-bang him and counter him and knock him out. I believe Roman needs to do what I said earlier, basically have it like an inside fight, but take his breaks and whatnot, and really manage the contest. For me, going into this rematch, I just see there's more ways that Estrada wins it. You know, I feel there's more ways Estrada wins this one. And while it's a hard fight to call, I have to be honest, I am really kind of leaning towards Juan Francisco Estrada to win this fight. And potentially he knocks out Roman Gonzalez. I can just see Roman Gonzalez getting caught with a hard counter in this fight. If you go back and watch Roman Gonzalez's fight with Israel Gonzalez, Roman won it really clearly, but when Israel Gonzalez would punch with Roman Gonzalez, he was having a lot of success, but the problem was Israel Gonzalez wasn't really a puncher. In those moments, I could easily see Estrada just nailing Gonzalez with something huge, hurting him and then knocking him out. But yeah, it's a hard fight to call. It's one of those fights in which I really don't want to see either guy lose, because I'm a big fan of both fighters, two of my favourite fighters in the sport, both in terms of like pure style, their styles of fighting, and also just what they've done for the sport of boxing and the great fights they've given me as a boxing fan. So while I'm grateful for both guys and I don't really want to see a loser, you're asking me to pick, I'm picking Juan Francisco Estrada to win this fight by knockout. Not sure when, but I'm picking him by knockout. Anyway, share your thoughts below. Beanie Guy Delboy. Actually, this was a hard video to make in terms of who I was picking and whatnot. Hard fight to break down in my opinion. But yeah, share your thoughts below. It's Beanie Guy Delboy. Peace.